Okay, so I've gone through and I've listened to this and watched this speech the Pope gave to the Congress in the US just over 3 years ago in 2015. It took just about an hour, and I've had enough of listening to be honest. So first thing I want to do is this is not hate speech in any way, shape or form against the American people or people of Catholic faith. I need you to know that. But I don't understand how people can go to Catholic Church and see this guy as their figurehead and not know what's going on. That's beyond me. But in any case, let's dig in. So the first thing I notice is how he's dressed, how he's presented. So he's in bright white, so he's the bearer of light, which is their Lucifer, is their bearer of light. You've probably heard a few, particularly the Bushes, say 1,000 points of light, I think they say, which is what they're doing when they when they talk about Lucifer. Now, just a couple of things, just a couple of major takeouts I took from the speech, just things he was talking about. It was a lot of talk. Now, people that know my channel will know you need to look at this stuff for it to make any sense. What I'm saying through the prism that the Bible is correct, and if you're here to contest the Bible or its authenticity and things like that, you're going to get nothing out of this, and it's just going to be a debate. I'm past such issues. I'm past issues of the Earth being a globe, for instance. I'm past issues of the Bible being true. I'm past them. I don't debate them anymore. So this is God. Jesus has given me eyes to see and ears to hear, and it's become. I think these things of the world are becoming clearer to me by the day. So there's that. So a few things that I took out of the speech. The big ones were money. He's talking about money a lot. He's talking about the common good, global solidarity, things like that. A few things he said, like hard work, tireless and demanding pursuit of the common good. And we know, well, he basically links right through the speech that how hard you work and how much tax you pay is reflective of who you are as a citizen. That's right through it. That's right through it. And we all know what that means. Well, that links back to the New World Order communist system. There's a lot of talk there about poverty, fixing poverty, which is interesting because you would think with all the gold that's in the Vatican, he could fix poverty 3-4 times over. But he talks about it, of course, and he comes straight out with it at one point. I think this is one of the points where I'm going to stop. There's about 3 or 4 points here where I want to stop the video. I'm conscious of time because he does go for an hour, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play little parts and just give my thoughts about what he says. But he actually comes out with at one point where he's talking about distribution of wealth, and which of course is communism. He talks about volunteer work for old people and things like that. One thing I do, there's a real overtone that religion causes conflict. Now, I believe religion is it's now a false construct. It's been hijacked by these people. Those within the body of Christ, such as myself, are isolated. We don't go to churches because we walk into churches and it's just full of people who follow this bloke, I suppose. They just don't seem to know. I find the further I go with this walk with Christ, the more isolating it does get. So religion, it does cause conflict, but it's caused by this bloke and that horrible Zionist guy over his right shoulder there, who has just the blackest of eyes, who publicly touches children. Poverty, okay, and then and there's an obvious joining of politics and the church, which goes against the First Amendment in America, and I don't think God ever said he wanted that in the Bible. I can't think of where he does say that in the Bible. Now, this first bit is really, really interesting. So he talks about Moses, and this is where he first does the 666. So he only flashes the 666 once, and it's the first time he mentioned God, so there's a clear connection there between the 666 and God. And when you have he points to Moses on the wall, and he's got those same two fern things. I'm not quite sure what they are, but those two same fern things they've got on the UN map. So those, I don't know what they are, but they're obviously evil, because if they're on the UN map and they're in the Congress and they're around this Moses he's talking about, it's pure blasphemy. This next bit, I'll let it go. I'll let it go to the part there. I'll play it. Here, this bit.
Yours is a walk which makes me reflect in two ways on the figure of Moses.
So there's two things around it, those fern things.
On the one hand, the patriarch and lawgiver of the people of Israel symbolizes
the people of Israel. So I think he might be talking about the Israelites here, because it's about suppression and laws and stuff. I don't think he's talking about the modern day Israel.
The need of people to keep alive their sense of unity by means of just legislation.
Okay, so you've got to stay together by unity via legislation. So the only way we can be unified as a people is under their legislation.
On the other, the figure of Moses leads us directly to God.
Now, for all you people out there who think this guy is not what I'm saying, what's he doing there? Is he saying okay, as he says God? Do you think Jesus would have done that? I mean, look at the look on Biden's face. He's like, yeah, he's pretty ecstatic. So this figure, Moses, leads us directly to God, 666.
And thus to the transcendent dignity of the human being.
The transcendent dignity of the human being. I Googled the word transcended. Transcended. I'll do it again, actually. Transcendent. Okay, so beyond or above the norm. So he's talking about spirituality. Aristotle, he's one of these Freemasons, one of these Gnostics, New Ages. So you can see that the transcendence, it's you can go into it further, but I'm conscious of time. It's just loaded with it. It's pure blasphemous. He's talking about Moses and legislation and hard work, and he's talking about the Ten Commandments, obviously, and that Moses gave, but Moses didn't give them. God gave them. Moses just received them. So that's what initially attracted me to this video was him doing the 666, and I thought, oh well, let's just keep watching. Now this next verse is really, really interesting. So this is where he talks about old people coming out of retirement to do volunteer work. I'm not sure whether whether it's sort of some sort of pre-programming he's doing, because the retirement age is always going up, and he's trying to get people to do his dirty work, and that's what these people do. Push his agenda for him of old people coming out of retirement. So all these old people go out of retirement, they told me to do it, and I'm taking a hit for God and all that. I'm not sure whether it links back to the whole communism thing, because everybody works till they die in communism, and that's what these people are amping up for. So it could be both. And then after that, he talks about the young people, and I think the young people part of this speech is probably the most alarming for me. But anyway, I'll play this bit about the old people.
That many of them are retired, but still active. They keep working to build up this land.
Look at Biden.
I also want
all the old people. Look at Biden, all the old people, they keep on working, to build up this land, and he's just smiling away,
With all those young people.
Yeah, this is the part about young people, so I find this quite alarming. So I'll play it.
Who are working to realize their great and noble aspirations. who are not led astray by facile proposals.
Okay, so not led astray by facile proposals. So that's like I googled that before, and it's like it's the things that shouldn't be swaying you, things that shouldn't be taking your interest away from the common good, the main prize here. And I believe he's talking about God. I believe it's talking about people leading Christ, leading to Christ.
And who face difficult situations, often
Just leading to Christ, so you can see the look on his face. It's like, this is what will happen. This is what will happen if we don't keep these people in line, these young people. So,
often
okay, yeah.
as a result of immaturity
Immaturity.
on the part of many adults.
People like me, people like you listening to this, we're immature because we know truth and we don't want any part of their little world.
I wish to dialogue with all of you, and I would like to do so through the historical memory of your people.
So it's all there. So he's using America's history to lead them away from God, which is their history. I think I don't know about the history of America that much. I don't want to get into it here. I've got my thoughts. I'm looking into it more. But there he is. He's using the American history, which is the history of God, against the American people to fight Lucifer. So the next part I wanted to, he talks about four Americans. He talks about four Americans that impress him.
I would like to mention
I'd love to know what's going through these people's heads. Like, are they all in on it? Do they know what this guy's saying? Are they deaf? Are they blind? Or are they just in on it? It's just bizarre. This is an interesting get up back here, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that for a chain and the cross. Whenever I see the cross, you got the five pointed. How are they five pointed? No, they're what's that? That's the Star of David, isn't it? Which is even more alarming.
four of these Americans: Abraham Lincoln,
Okay, so here's the four Americans he talks about. So the first one is Abraham Lincoln. I just typed in Abraham Lincoln Freemason. You can see I've typed it in wrong, and all of it. He's obviously a Freemason, so I'll leave him there.
Martin Luther King,
Oh, sorry, got that wrong. So Abraham Lincoln. There's debate as to whether he was or he wasn't. Again, he was the one I think that abolished slavery, but slavery again is the whole story is a hoax. It's it's riddled with lies. Of course there were slaves, but the whole thing about I'm not going to go into it. There's lies there. There's evidence there. There's lies, but I'm not going to go into it. But we'll sort of leave Lincoln there.
Dorothy Day,
Dorothy Day. So I've had a look at Dorothy Day, and where is she? Uh, I've lost her. But in any case, I had a look. You can see these words I've googled here because there's links with her. Was it here? Somewhere? Dorothy Day. No. But Dorothy Day. This is the rabbit hole I was going down about Dorothy Day. When I've only really looked into each person for 5 minutes. I don't want to spend a heck of a lot of time on them, to be honest. I just want to get a sense of who he's talking about.
and Thomas Merton.
And Thomas Merton, and the other one I think I missed it there was Martin Luther King. Now that whole black rights thing was a hoax. It's a controlled opposition thing. It was about more people paying tax. It was about creating the division between black and white people in a modern day forum that links in with social progression, which is their gateway to the New World Order. So Martin Luther King, he's all over it. He was there, I think, or one of them. There's some old bloke there, and when the Pope talks about it later, he just goes, he starts crying, he's gooing and going. He's obviously a Freemason, and the last one was this Thomas Merton, and you can see here, this is where I led. He's a Gnostic. So I led the four people there. You can judge, but I know what I'm seeing. So then we go to 1530. What does he talk about here? Oh yes, this is where he talks about violent conflict and hatred and brutal atrocities in the name of God. Now, nobody on this earth has ever that truly follows God, that truly follows Christ, has ever done an aggressive act in His name. Otherwise, you're not within the body. So he's talking about Lucifer. He's talking about the wars. He's talking about the atrocities. He's talking about all these horrendous things that him and that horrendous Zionist have created, and all of these people over the last few hundred years have created. In the name of religion, to isolate people that are religious, and now people that are religious are isolated, but they are not followers of God, and the whole thing's just completely messed up now, which is exactly what they want, because how these people operate. Now, when I talk about they and he and all that, and over the last few hundred years, I put the Catholic Church, the Zionists, the I put them sort of all into the one category, because they all do different things. The Freemasons are the other one. They all do different things. They all play a different part, but they've all got the common goal. So we'll play this a little bit here. So I've got lead up to 1530 written, I think here. So I might just play it from here.
Any other kind. A delicate balance is required to combat violence perpetrated in the name of a religion, an ideology, or...
So again, that 9/11, it was a false flag. They blame Muslims. They try to ostracise Muslims, and you notice every time there's some sort of crazy person that does, like these people that lock up people in dungeons for decades and have 21 kids, like that guy in Austria. They're always crazy Christians, and that's what he's doing. He's ostracising people of any sort of faith. And the Muslims are, I mean, I differ with them. I've got no problem with Muslims, but you guys are in the gun with this agenda. You are absolutely in the gun. They're just using you, and I think you know it. And there's Muslims out there who get the shits, and I think some of them may act out at times, but I don't think like terrorism isn't a thing. It's false. You might have a couple of lone people who you can understand why Muslims are getting pretty disaffected by the world at the moment, because they're made out to be the bad guy when nothing could be further from the truth. So we'll keep going here. Now, after 1530, so I'll let him go. I might pause it again, but after 1530, he's blasphemy. He blasphemes again.
an economic system, while also safeguarding religious freedom, intellectual freedom,
Now, whenever he talks about freedom, he's talking about suppression.
and individual
People like myself, people like you, those of us within the body of Christ, because he hates us.
freedoms.
And this is where I've got him blaspheming.
But there is another temptation which we must especially guard against. The simplistic reductionism which sees only good or evil.
So, did you hear that? So you go back to Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve were put on the earth, and they only knew good. And the only reason now we're in our fallen state is because the serpent came up to Eve and said, "You know nothing. I can give you all this new knowledge, all this new illumination, which is I can give you all this illumination, which was the bad." So there's two forces in the world: there's good and bad. That's the Bible. And again, I remind you of how he's dressed.
Or, if you will, the righteous and sinners.
righteous and sinners. He's saying that there's more forces in the world than that. There's not the righteous, and there's not sinners. There's everything in between. I'll let it go for a little bit longer.
The contemporary world, with its open wounds, which affect so many of our brothers and sisters, demands that we confront every form of polarization, which would divide it into these two camps.
So there you go. So what he's doing there is people like me. So I look at the Pope and I go, you are evil, you are not righteous, you are a sinner. And that's what he wants. He wants people like me eliminated. He doesn't want us to be speaking out because we are his worst nightmare. He hates us because we know exactly what he's doing. And he's saying that anybody that does that aren't being tolerant. They're not being unified. There being all these bad things that social progression pushes. It certainly does here in Australia. So it's just pure blasphemy what he's saying there. I'll keep going over there.
We know that in the attempt to be fit.
Yeah, that's enough. We'll go to 17:30. I've only got a few to go. It shouldn't be too much longer.
Are asked to summon the courage and the intelligence to resolve today's many geopolitical and economic crises.
All these economic crises that him and his cronies and that guy over his left shoulder, his cronies, or that they're creating them.
Even in the developed world, the effects of unjust structures and actions are all too apparent. Our efforts must aim at restoring hope, righting wrongs, maintaining commitments.
Okay, so he's creating the wrongs. That guy Biden, he's creating the wrongs, and the people he's talking about, the people that are not a part of the program, are the people in the body of Christ, people that do follow the real God, not Lucifer. Right, so we come up to 21 minutes. He does something here. Let's do here something about living as one. Actually, I might skip that bit. Go straight to 35. So he just talks about Martin Luther King again. I think I've covered that before.
Of global solidarity.
Global, nice word.
Must not be lost.
Just look at that building. Look at that building, and to me, that just looks like Freemasonry. It just looks like a big Freemason building. You've got an eagle here, and you've got, look at the illuminated one. Like, he's illuminated. He looks like he's as bright as the moon. 1,000 points of light, bearer of light, Lucifer.
At the same time, I would encourage you to keep in mind all those people around us.
He does rabbit on, doesn't he?
Without saying that part of this great effort is the creation and distribution of wealth.
Okay. Let's go back and let's listen to that again.
With this problem, it goes without saying that part of this great effort is the creation and distribution of wealth. The right use.
Now, those Americans in the background, as he talks about the distribution of wealth, the land of the free and freedom and all this, and the ruler of the world and all that sort of stuff, and a fair go, and you've got a bloke who they worship, that they love, that they adore. You can see it in the crowd. I'm going to show you a couple of shots of John Kerry in a sec. They're just sitting back going, yep, this guy's right with everything he says as he talks about a distribution of wealth. I mean, Are people blind? Are people actually listening to this bloke? I actually reflect now that I start watching this stuff with now where I am with my journey. I start to reflect on where I was. And I remember back in this speech, 2015. I was still 12 months from the moon landing. That's where it all started for me. Moon landing hoax in September 2016. I'm still 12 months away, and I remember I used to think he was a bit weird. The Pope was a bit weird, but he's a good man. All he wants is world peace. He's a representative of God, and because I was just a guy on the street, I had no idea about any of this stuff. And I think most people think the way I was. They're just ignorant to it. They don't want to know. This uniform here, this get up here, they're the evil ones. I've seen this red kit before. They sing directly to Lucifer in the Vatican, and you see every time you see them talking, and they're just always talking about Lucifer. I'm not quite sure what these ones are. These pink people, these people behind the bloke with the glasses here. They're really evil ones. Now, he blames the public for the deterioration of the Earth. So he doesn't mention climate change, but it obviously links back into climate change. Now remember, there's nothing wrong with the Earth. The Earth's fine. The Earth is sustaining all the people. They're just telling us it doesn't. They're creating a problem reaction solution when it comes to the Earth. I'll just play it.
All. In Laudato Si, I call for a courageous and responsible effort to redirect our steps and to avert the most serious effects of the environmental deterioration caused by human activity.
So he blames it directly on us. He blames all the chemtrails, the fluoridation of the water, the polluting of the water, all of the earthquakes, all of the tsunamis, all this shit they're creating, the directed energy events. He's blaming it directly on you, the people. And how do you fix it? Climate change policies which are anti-capitalism, they're anti-competition. They will stifle all economies, and again, it will create a problem, and the solution will be a one new world order. So people, he's there, and he is openly saying that you are responsible for the deterioration of the Earth, and the only thing wrong with the Earth is the things that they're creating. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show you was they flipped to John Kerry.
A source
I just want to show you him. 4310.
For many people.
Sorry, 4310. There he is.
I would like to recognize the efforts made in
Now, just look at him for a minute and think, is that a guy you would trust? Is that a guy you would stake your spirituality in? Would you take spiritual advice from this man? Do you think he might be aligned to the Pope? Do you think he might be digesting every word and just hanging off his every word? This bearer of light, this illuminated white figure. And I've looked a lot into this guy, and the Pope, him and the Pope have gone to Antarctica a few times. I'm not quite sure what Antarctica is. I don't even know if it exists. I'm convinced there's no South Pole. But and they come back. Every time they come back with black eyes, there's something to do. There's just something to do with Antarctica and black eyes. There's some sort of ritual they do. But just look at him. He just looks evil, and he's listening to an evil man. Even these logos on the floor, and it's just loaded. It's loaded, this stuff. So that's about all I have to show. So the big takeouts for me is it's all about the common good. It's all about unity. It's all about one. It's all about working harder. It's all about linking taxes and how hard you work to your spiritual well-being. It's all about religion causing conflict. It's all about living under the one unified belief system, and that's the only way that all these atrocities that they're creating on the earth will stop. He talks about poverty. as a result of all the wars in the world, poverty that he could fix 3 times over with all the gold in the Vatican, and if they stopped creating these wars. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is just all about the new world order, the common good, and everybody getting with the program and isolating Christians and making Christians or followers of Christ, isolating the followers of Christ, making us out to be people that aren't with the program and who aren't unified. It's dark, guys. I mean, if you've got eyes to see and ears to hear, you can see this is really, really dark.